Please stay.
I think there might also be a point.
Okay. Sorry. Another response.
I think Australia has already been the subject of a false flag operation. It's called Bali.
If anyone in the audience is not aware of the evidence of Bali, the only real thing that seems clear is that the second bomb that was let off was not able to be produced by the terrorists. So it's most likely it was a military-grade bomb by the pressure wave and also by the simple amount of damage that it did. So that's the evidence of Bali. Not many people have looked into it in depth, but anyway, it is definitely true that we have had a false flag attack, it appears. Next question, thanks.
Hang on. There may be another point there too, that since 9/11 has received a fair amount of publicity, the authorities or whoever's running the show may have begun to think it's more useful to do what you call it, not a false flag attack, but a foiled false flag attack. There have been three foiled false flag attacks that I can think of off the top of my head. One of them was a threat to blow up tunnels in New York, which would have flooded them. Another was something to do in Canada, where I think the Mounties might have encouraged some young fellas to buy some fertiliser and then dump them in. And the third one was the most interesting from the chemical point of view. That is the liquid explosives taken into aircraft, supposedly to manufacture an explosive in the toilet. They're far too difficult, and the police have been following those young men for a number of months. Therefore, they must have known that it could not work. Therefore, the whole thing was a political scam. And then we have to endure all this stuff when we fly over from Perth to Sydney. We have to endure being tested for explosives. I was tested for explosives yesterday. They didn't find any.
Okay, if the panel could just maybe put their hand up if you want to add something else so I don't interrupt you. Sorry about that. Next question.
Hi, I'm Andrew from WeAreChange, Western Australia. I was just wanting to ask about effective ways of distributing information. We saw the Obama Joker poster being put up all around the world, all over the place. Another way is mail drop to the letterbox drops. Do we think that this is a good, credible way of spreading the information, or are we putting ourselves in the same league as junk mailers and that kind of thing?
As I think I'll direct this question to Cosmos, as he's lost a family member. I think many people found the Obama campaign with the poster possibly offensive, and we've got to be very careful that we don't alienate more people than we encourage. I didn't find it offensive, but many people did. So would you like to respond to that question about those sort of campaigns, the high visibility but maybe destructive campaigns?
Yeah, well, it's really tricky with Obama, because you have someone he's almost lifted up to the level of Messiah. Exactly. So it's like, anytime you do anything that's involving him, you're going to be turning off a lot of people, or confusing a lot of people who don't know what you're talking about necessarily when he shows up in a Joker face and in the mask of a masked murderer. Why are you presenting him this way? Mostly what I found offensive actually about that particular campaign was when his image was attached to the word socialism. And personally, I find Mr. Obama to be more of a corporatist, maybe a fascist. I don't associate him with socialism. But, as far as the general topic of being offensive or not, I think it's just, you just have to kind of use your better judgment, and maybe really put yourself in the position of a lot of different kinds of people, I did lose someone on 9/11, but I also have kind of I'm hard to offend, personally, but there's other people who are very easy to offend. And I think the thing is, you want to think about what is your goal, and our goal is really, to communicate as much as possible and to spread information as much as possible. So we do want to offend as little as possible, unless, maybe we're doing a particular kind of action where we're trying to offend. I don't know what that circumstance would be, but, it's basically just using your head,
Anyone else like to comment on that? Stephen?
I think humor can be used effectively. Also, some forms of music. There are songs about 9/11 might reach, certain people, and movies. You're starting to see, and TV shows. You're starting to see a 9/11 message getting through on TV and things like that.
So you think Charlie Sheen would be a particularly good example to point to then?
Who?
Charlie Sheen.
Oh, Charlie. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think so. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Thank you. Charlie Sheen.
Okay, next question.
My question is directed to Stephen. Have you done any comparative studies of the particle size, the range, and mean size of the particles compared with the particle sizes that, say, an iron worker would generate when he's cutting steel?
Yeah. We have done various experiments, some of which are, actually I think this one might be in that first paper. What we did is we took, looking for spheres, for example. So we cut steel with an oxyacetylene torch and collected the spheres that are produced. But when you melt steel and in the sprays, you get spheres, as Richard demonstrated. It's a surface tension effect. Those spheres are very different. They look like steel, very different from the bulk of the spheres that we see in the World Trade Center dust, which, as I showed, we find iron and often silicon and aluminum, which you don't find in those quantities in steel. So as far as that, we've done those experiments and ruled that out. Let's see, that addresses your question. But as far as the red material, let me say we did look at dust from 2 buildings now that have been taken down by conventional controlled demolition. We didn't expect they would use nanothermite for that because they weren't worried about planes hitting them. And sure enough, there was no red material. Now, if the red material somehow mysteriously appears when a building with iron, rust, and aluminum is in the building and it collapses and you get this nanothermite, it's mind-boggling. But nevertheless, we did the experiment by looking in the dust. We consider that a control. Of course, there were none of these red, gray particles at all in either. This was Stardust Hotel in Las Vegas that was demolished, a huge building, and a bank in Salt Lake City. No red material. So we do these things by experiment.
Thank you. This next part's more of a statement, but if JFK Jr. was still alive, I believe he would like to investigate the assassination of his father. And we've lost JFK Jr. and Beverly Eckert. And I believe they both died under similar circumstances in plane crashes where at 2,500 feet, within 60 seconds, both planes went down.
Next question, please.
My question may be a little bit abrupt, but you have the evidence. When is it going to go to a grand jury, and who is going to be indicted?
Well, I won't attempt to answer the question in respect to the American system because it operates under a wholly different set of rules than we have here. And I'm not a criminal lawyer, so I'm being cautious that I approach it here as well. But one way which we in fact were discussing last night over a cup of coffee was, as some of you may be familiar with, the Balibo inquiry, which was a coronial inquiry, which a coroner has very wide powers under Australian law to subpoena witnesses and to receive evidence more broadly than is true in a more normal court of law. The rules of admissibility are somewhat more flexible, and that the Balibo inquiry was used to identify Indonesian citizens who were thought to have been directly responsible for the murder of the 5 journalists killed in East Timor at the time of the Indonesian invasion. There's nothing to stop